In this world, your strength is determined by your class: swordman, wizard, priest, fighter, knight, warrior, and hero. But still, no one knows that the strongest class in this world is peasant. The story begins with an extremely tragic incident. A man got hit by a truck. He died in an accident in modern Japan, after which he was reborn in a completely different world. Then he received the peasant class. His name was Ryudo McLean. When thinking of reincarnation, shouldn't it be unfair? Ryudo didn't know if he could be a simple peasant. While he was thinking, the guy was cutting wood. After finishing his hard work, he sighed proudly. If that were the case, then he just needed to enjoy his life as a normal villager. Suddenly, someone talked to the boy. Behind him was a girl and another boy. Ryudo recognized them as his friends, Moses and Cordelia. He asked why they were with him. The girl asked if he'd forgotten his promise to eat together. Turns out he'd forgotten. Cordelia grabbed his hand and took him forward. She happily told him to hurry, for the sun was setting. Ryudo thought the real character, who was beyond the rules, was a girl who was born 3 days after him. Her name was Cordelia Allstone. The girl shook Ryudo's hand so hard it made a loud and strong sound. She let go of his hand in a panic and apologized. Ryudo raised his hand and told her not to worry, since he had struck a tree recently. After this situation, Cordelia stayed away from the boy. For a moment there was a very strange pause. Moses coughed, trying to dilute the atmosphere. He reminded them that they also had to discuss the notes of the professor of the magic conference. Cordelia remembered and was a little surprised. She asked if it was a teacher's lecture with the big hat. Now, in order not to get hurt even in time for daily meetings, Ryudo has to work hard to control it. At 15, Cordelia is already a hero, with the title of Ikitusen. Speaking of heroes, having one can be an important factor for a country to end wars. Finish Moses. The class of the actor of Moses is wise. As a wise man, he can use weapons from a distance. Another character with strong skills. They are considered unique units of the country, even among the few that are close to the high level. That's precisely why Ryudo was so ashamed. Even with that difference between their status, they were still good friends. The guy held them tight, which surprised them a lot. They asked what he was doing all of a sudden. Ryudo asked how long they'd keep talking about something he didn't know. They said they couldn't talk about anything except school. Ryudo asked Cordelia if she was sure everything was okay, since monsters were common in that area. The girl was struck by that fear. Even though she, who had the status of a dragon slayer, was there, Ryudo was still afraid of ordinary monsters. The girl smiled proudly and asked if he was afraid to leave the village. Ryudo said he was just a peasant and had no choice. Suddenly Cordelia heard something running through the woods. The girl paid attention while Ryudo kept talking about how they brought someone like him into the woods. Suddenly, the monster jumped at them. Scared boy screamed as loud as he could. Cordelia reacted quickly. She advanced and attacked the monster, destroying him. With blood on her face, she smiled and told them to cook pork tomorrow morning. Suddenly, she realized what had happened and quickly turned around. Cordelia was cleaning the blood from her face in a hurry. Ryudo realized things were very bad. Because he let his emotions slip away, he felt extremely ashamed of what he had said. The girl still had her back to him. She now asked if Ryudo was asking why she brought him to this place. She said she wanted to show him the real her, that he probably wouldn't have been able to see in the village. Cordelia was trembling when she said that from now on, she would officially join the Order of the Knights and train. When you're 16, you'll enter the Royal Academy of Magic as a special student. That's why she wanted him to see the real her. She tried to ask him something, but Ryudo asked if that meant that Moses was also watching. The girl was silent. The next moment, she said she was addressing him specifically. With a worried look, she asked why he was so happy since they could no longer see each other. She blushed and asked if he really didn't think of anything. She asked if he had anything he meant. In response to that, the guy couldn't answer anything. Realizing that, she could say anything. Suddenly, someone asked loudly if Ryudo could come for a minute, since it was a little difficult for them to wash it in this cold. Ryudo exclaimed he'd be there soon. He turned to Cordelia and asked why she had such a sullen face. The offended girl said she didn't know, after which she told him to hurry up and go to work. She turned to the guy who left and said that since he was a peasant, if he saw any monsters, he should call her out loud. The kid thought he already knew. It was because he was a peasant that he had no choice. Moses apologized for calling you for help. The boy said not to worry, because it was the work of peasants, not of wise men. Moses said that they had already decided to appoint Ryudo as head of kitchen and laundry. Ryudo says she only gives orders, but does nothing alone. Moses laughed and said it was true Ryudo. After a while, they just did their laundry. Moses apologized to Ryudo again. The guy said it was okay. Suddenly Ryudo asked if the three of them weren't friends. Suddenly, the boy threw the bowl of water into the river and felt a tremor. Ryudo lost all sense and fell to the ground. The smile on Moses' face disappeared, and he asked if Ryudo had really said friends. He asked who was a friend of whose. He ridiculously asked if Ryudo meant friendship between a farmer and a wise man. He said it wasn't a funny joke. His face hardened like he said the drug was finally working. Incomprehensible, Ryudo asked why Moses was doing this. He said that he, Cordelia, and Ryudo were all born in the same year and grew up as childhood friends with the same education. However, what the girl treated well was Ryudo. His class was defined as wise. Between tens and hundreds of thousands, only one has such talent. Moses. He put his hand on his chest and said he had also reincarnated. He stepped on Ryudo's hand and said that even if we talked about reincarnation, he wouldn't understand. While he kept pressing the boy's hand down, he said it was no big deal. In any case, Moses not only received the gift of being a wise man, but was special. He was surprised because he could only think of it as a blessing. The existence of a girl on this earth who looked like an angel. A few years later, he really wanted to. He told the dead Ryudo that he was no longer worthy to stand by her side. He claimed that this was his answer to Ryuto's question. Moses did not realize that the peasant was talking to a hero of the same level. He stepped on the kid and said he should know his place. After saying that, he kicked Ryudo so hard he fell into the river. At that very moment, Cordelia felt something strange in her head. She turned around, wondering where Ryudo was. In the water, the kid was trying to get some air. He was hitting the waves, sinking deeper and deeper into the water. Before, Ryudo's eyes looked like Cordelia's image, who smiled sincerely at him. At that moment, he was ready to say goodbye to life. Suddenly, an image of a girl also appeared before his eyes, who was screaming loudly his name, asking him to answer if he was all right. The water began to disperse when the boy saw it. The girl was really shocked when she saw Ryudo. The guy smiled. He was glad he could only apologize to her. Cordelia ran to him with tears in his eyes as he sank into the water. Everything went dark before the boy's eyes, when suddenly he saw a little rock. Little Cordelia and Ryudo were walking when the girl managed to cut the stone with her sword, after which she laughed happily. The boy could see his childhood memories. In each of them, Cordelia was happy. She smiled when she spent time with him. Ryudo realized that this was the light at the end of the tunnel, when life flashes before his eyes just before death. He tried to talk to Cordelia, but she walked fast and confident. He was pathetic. Lying on the ground, Ryudo thought about how he wanted to become strong. He opened his eyes and was shocked to see a dragon in front of him. The monster said he didn't even know if the guy was a loser or a lucky guy. However, one thing was clear. The boy fell into the creek, which brought him to him. In delirium, Ryudo said he had a wish for the dragon, and said he had heard of him before. That people who lived in dragon dens became very strong. The dragon said it was true, that there were a lot of people like that. This is a famous story among heroes. When an ordinary person was bound by destiny to a dragon, they received a strange power that allowed them to become heroes. Ryudo sincerely asked the dragon to take him with him, because he really wanted to become strong. After a short break, the dragon said that unfortunately he was not able to fulfill Ryudo's request. He said there were two reasons for it. The first one was a restriction. Those accepted by the dragon race were orphans or slaves under 12. Ryudo asked about the other reason. The dragon said the guy was already dead. Half the guy's body was erased. The monster carefully lifted half of Ryudo's body. The boy looked into space, thinking this couldn't be happening. Ryudo asked what would happen if he could fulfill these conditions. The dragon said if so, he would grant the wish, because he did not throw words at the wind. The boy smiled and asked if he had received the dragon's promise. He said what he wanted was the divine protection of the dragon, and also the great library of the Dragon King. The shocked monster raised the boy in front of him and asked how Ryudo knew it. He guessed that instead of asking questions, it would be faster to read the boy's mind. Suddenly, he saw a boy sitting in front of the bodies of dead people. He realized Ryudo wouldn't find him for the first time. Now everything became clear to him, and he noticed that Ryudo's thoughts were extremely interesting. The dragon said if everything went according to the guy's plan, the line of this moment would be changed. The troubled guy has the dragon's promise. The next moment, the boy was in a white space. The other half of the body was back. Ryudo raised his arms and legs, turned a bit. After that, he quickly sat down. He smiled and said it somehow, but he's gonna win that bet. The creature in the mask, which was next to him, smiled. The girl said Ryudo's been through a lot. The boy agreed, and then thanked him for the skills he had taken. After that, he changed the text and said that he had chosen them from God, and that he had returned after death. The girl said the truth of the return after death was that there were many people who were informed of the essence of using it. Ryudo said that few people dared do that. The guy said there were no more skills that would allow revival, so he asked if he could pick one again. The girl said he couldn't. Had take 2 at the most. She had explained before that every skill could only be chosen once. She opened a large screen in front of Ryudo and told him to choose 2 skills, excluding the first, return from death, and the second, wisdom, which he had chosen before. The boy said it was a shame because he could gain more skills in his next reincarnation. The second round of your bet was also successful. After all, your class would still be peasant. The girl said the place of reincarnation, and the boy's surroundings would be repeated, like last time. With that in mind, he decided to choose 2 skills, cut resistance and agriculture. The girl said she could understand the resistance of skill, but agriculture was absurd to her. The guy said the girl loved flowers. He said that in his daily cruelty, he wanted at least to bring a smile and flowers. The girl smiled and said she understood. She gave him the skills he could choose. After that, she wished him a successful journey. A flash of light appeared in front of Ryudo, after which he was transported. Just like last time, he'll be born in this house soon. Like a peasant without strength and wealth, but now he had a promise, and he would be able to walk this path to victory. To become strong as a peasant, he would prepare everything necessary for it. A large family was congratulating little Ryudo on his 2nd birthday. The party was in full swing and people were having fun. People congratulated McLean for the day. Man was also grateful to many for coming to see them. He clapped his hands, getting everybody's attention. He pointed to other parents and said another hero had appeared. Lady Cordelia, whose birthday was in 3 days. Everyone admired how beautiful she was. She reminded everyone of an angel. Many were already talking about wanting her to have someone's child in the future. Suddenly another child started crying loudly. Cordelia's mother said the baby was hungry too. She took the kid and told him to push somewhere. She turned to McLean and asked him to lend her the room to his wife. The man agreed and said his wife was already there. The girl was feeding the boy. When she came into the room, she saw Ryudo's mother nursing him. She was a little surprised to be feeding him like that again, but Ryudo's mother didn't seem to be bothered by it. The girl noticed that Ryudo was looking closely at her. She assumed he also wanted her to breastfeed him. McLean's mother said that wasn't true. She caressed the kid's head and repeated that he didn't want to. She hugged him and proudly said he was happy with her too. She was happy when she said he loved his mother and that it was her mother's love. She picked him up and asked if the girl would like to hold him. She said when someone hugged him, he started crying. The girl caught him, but there was no reaction. McLean, amazed, asked why. She took Ryudo and asked why. She asked if he loved his mother more than that woman. She asked if he wanted his mother to hug him. Afraid, McLean asked why he wasn't crying. She immediately rushed, wanting to take him to the doctor. McLean tried to stop her, asking where she was going. At night, when everyone was asleep, Ryudo thought Mom and Dad were the same as always. The boy raised his hands and started using normal wind magic. If he kept doing that, he'd be able to use him as a child. He tried 4 times, but he still hasn't. He passed the world. Ryudo wondered why he was doing this, since he had already decided that he had to be stronger. In his first reincarnation, he explained how wisdom would help him to become stronger. Wisdom is a skill that references and verifies any knowledge below level B in people's minds. Behind the boy was a library. Wisdom gave him the ability to read books from all over the world in his head. In his past life, he used wisdom to become smarter as a baby. He also read a book and found a description of a magician of how to record a person's experience. They conducted an experiment on how to increase magical power in childhood. They paid close attention to the child's talent and potential and forced him to practice magic. The child's talent is excellent. The greatest improvements are observed when training to expand magical power is performed during the most sensitive period, and knowledge occupies all childhood. However, to expand magical power, a person must use magic daily until his power reaches 0. An adult will have headaches or shocks, which is at his level, causing madness. So even if Ryudo knew the method, he couldn't execute it. However, this time he could endure the resilience skill. The ability to overcome pain with the mind means that your magical power will increase infinitely. It increases hundreds of times faster in childhood. Ryudo was a simple peasant, and no matter how much effort he made, there was something he could not achieve. He decided that as the case was, he would go ahead and let someone try to reach him. Now he was the strongest. 2 years later, the 4th month of his birth, he went to the village priest to use the status plate. The boy looked at his stats and noticed that he had grown more than expected. He liked to walk alone, because he was 4 years old. He went to the mountains alone to collect vegetables or herbs. The things he gives, when he comes back from the mountains, he buys at the market. He hadn't gone to the mountains, but he had money to buy it. The answer to that question was something else. Cordelia stood in front of Ryudo and said she would harvest vegetables with him. The boy said he wouldn't go with her. Cordelia cried and said Ryudo didn't want to play with her. She didn't like being so alone. The kid hit her in the head and said he'd lose with her next time, and then apologized. Cordelia yelled at the boy, then ran off angry. She turned around and said she wouldn't listen to him anymore. Ryudo thought he should leave the house so it wouldn't happen again. Wherever he was, he thought about money and where he was going. Standing in the woods, he activated his ability, increased physical capacity. Level 4, he worked the streets, out of town, in the villages to make money. If he uses his skill, it's easy to make money even as a child. Ryudo worked to become stronger. While I was in town, the boy treated other people's diseases. People thanked him and said that even though he was young, he had a strong healing ability. There were long lines around Ryudo. It wasn't uncommon for children his age to use healing magic. That's why he became an opponent of merchants, opening his own instant healing shop. Even now, he was increasing his magical power reserve, but it was very boring. He stopped the treatment once he had used a lot of magical power, so that fatigue did not seem false. As busy spending his magic power and making money on the streets near the city hotels. He kept his savings under a small tree. When he pawned his new profits, he thought he had saved a lot of money. His statistics also grew rapidly. On the way back, he saw Cordelia looking at him with a disgruntled expression. He asked what had happened again. When Ryudo asked how she was, Cordelia turned away from him with a disgruntled expression. The girl said she was upset with him and didn't listen. She also said she'd been there since morning. Ryudo took your purse and started taking something out. He gave the girl a souvenir, which was a sandwich with lettuce and bacon. Cordelia's eyes shone. Ryudo told her to eat there, and she agreed. The boy sighed, thinking she was as easy to take care of as usual. After finishing the sandwich, Cordelia reached out to him and said she was no longer angry with him. She said she expressed herself incorrectly and asked for his hand. They reached out and came back. They began to share what had happened during the day as well as common conversations. A year later, they were walking in a field together. Cordelia asked the kid if he wasn't having fun. She asked me again if it was fun. The guy agreed, thinking he just wanted to run away. Because today, the trinkets merchants have arrived. They would trade things from all over the world. They lived in a small village, and when the merchants came, it was the event of the century. During the walk, Cordelia asked the boy if his family would come. He said his parents lived modestly, not richly but pettily. Time's been terrible lately. A family almost sold the baby, and they almost did too. Cordelia asked Ryudo to say tanned 10 times. So she asked what the chicken was putting on. The boy quickly said they were laying eggs. Ryudo said she wasn't old enough to lie to him. The girl said she'd get him this time. She asked him to say, "I hate it," and then changed the wish, asking him to say, "I love it" with love. While he said that, she watched by surprise. When Ryudo wanted to hear more, she said she was happy that he said he liked her. She couldn't think of anything else. He caressed her head and said she said something sweet. Childhood friend, younger sister, daughter or niece. He didn't see her as someone to fall in love with. However, he knew for sure that she was dear to him. Together, they came to the shopping streets. Cordelia said it was beautiful there. Ryudo asked if she had any snacks. She asked him to wait a while and ran away. Cordelia quickly bought something and gave it to the boy. She said she kept some coins. Cordelia remembered that today was the boy's birthday, that he had forgotten. He didn't think his birthday was coming any time soon. He saved it for her birthday. He took a flower and said it was instead of her coins. Although 3 days earlier, he congratulated her by putting a flower in her hair. The girl came to him, and she kissed Ryudo on the lips. He blushed. Leaving, he asked why she did it suddenly. Cordelia said Mom and Dad do it to show how good they are together. Suddenly, Ryudo noticed that he had hit her in the nose. He thought the kiss wasn't that important to her, but he realized it wasn't. The girl turned around and asked if the flower was right for her. Ryudo confirmed and asked if they were coming back. He asked if she had forgotten anything, since they had bought everything they had. The girl remembered the snacks. She had bought a honey snack, but she hadn't tried it. Ryudo asked her to wait a while. This girl will tell you in the future that she has a separate stomach for candy. The next day, the kid was walking through the woods looking for something. They say there's an old stranger, has somewhere far from the village. He came to see you. Looking at his skills, he thought he was definitely growing up. But anyway, he was just improving his magic and power, and there was no point in it. Knocked on the door and walked into the wrecked house. He needed a teacher. There he saw an old man. The man threw Ryudo out because he had no intention of teaching him. The kid said he came up with something. He took something out of the bag. The old man asked if Ryudo was trying to make a joke. The boy asked if the old man had more water. He addressed him as Bernard. Bernard of Arbasta, the most powerful swordsman in the kingdom. He was born a peasant, grew up and married in the village. They were poor, but happy. The incident occurred 3 years after your daughter's birth. A cruel monster killed his whole family. He lost everything and disappeared from the village. A decade later, he appeared in the city swordsman competition. After that, he joined the Order of the Victorious Knights. He became the next captain of the order and worked to destroy the orcs, for which he received his nickname. The old man asked that since Ryudo knew, he understood what had happened, and therefore he could not teach him. Kid got something else out of the bag. It was an elixir, the only medicine that could save Bernard. He asked where Ryudo got so much money. The boy opened up his status and allowed the old man to see. He made money from the treatment, but it's a secret. The old man asked if the boy was a demon or a gift from a deity, since the numbers were great. Ryudo said he was a man, like Bernard, a peasant. The old man asked why a peasant whose strength exceeded 10 wanted to become his disciple. He said if Ryudo wanted to learn magic, he could apply to the Imperial Academy. The kid said he was a peasant and wouldn't be able to use high-level magic. Bernard confirmed that. Ryudo said he had to get stronger, but he couldn't say more. However, he didn't want the old man to die. Bernard's up. Ryudo thought there was a hidden room. The old man prayed near a small number of things belonging to the family. He cut his hair and went to Ryudo. He asked how you were. He said he was still a good knight. 6 years later, Ryudo was already today was the 273rd month of his training. A week later, a bunch of leprechauns will attack the village. Cordelia will fight, but she will be dominated and face defeat. However, after all this, the dragon will appear and kill the elves. It happened in a previous life. Ryudo decided to leave the village for a while. This time, he would come to the lair and see the dragon first. There was something he had to take care of. The first was your mother, who wanted to kiss the boy. Ryudo asked her to calm down and listen to him. He asked if she could stop kissing him in the morning. He said he was already 12 and her kiss was only good until he was 6. The woman was speechless. Then she said he was right. After that, she tried again, but Ryudo stopped her again. She left the house crying, causing a stir. Ryudo liked them, but he needed to wean himself from his family. It was 7 days before the attack. He wanted to ride the dragon and leave the village. Bernard said your medicine should be enough. 7 years ago, they said Ryudo wanted to learn the skill of the steel corpse that strengthened him, and it was different from increasing physical capacity. Increased physical capacity multiplies basic statistics. For a peasant, that's an advantage. The steel body increases the characteristics. You should be grateful when the basic features are too low. Bernard said that a steel corpse is essential to learning how to increase physical skills. Ryudo said he could already use the increased physical skills and then raise the old man. Bernard landed and asked how Ryudo could increase his statistics so much. The kid said anyone can do that if they're not afraid of the pain. Ryudo said the demon gate was the same. Bernard noticed that the boy knew forbidden techniques. Demon gate, he can really open the gates where demons live. The old man asked how Ryudo knew that. The kid said he died and saw him. Steel corpse and physical ability improvement are skills that are being cancelled when the magic power is over, but the devil gate eats its soul until it's cancelled. Bernard asked if Ryudo knew it would exhaust him and lead to death. He asked if the boy wanted to learn now. Ryudo asked who you were talking to. Since his powers exceeded 10, the old man confirmed that, if that's true, he could use the demon gate. He said Ryudo would become strong. The boy said he had no choice. For 12 years, he did everything he could. It's a week away. On the first day of the 4th month, Cordelia's parents said they were teaching her the order of a knight. In these 2 years, she will easily gain practical experience and become a knight at age 15. She thought it was just in words. They will throw her in order, where she must be a squire, but due to the connections, she will be the most respected, and they will throw her into battle. She shouldn't be afraid, but she didn't want to take the lives of others. Cordelia's mother asked if she was afraid. The girl started crying because this would be her first and last request. It was unfair, even though it received financial support. Dad asked if she was scared because a hero wasn't something stupid. The man said Cordelia was awarded an oracle. Mom jumped, but couldn't answer. Cordelia said she wasn't afraid. She thought it best not to accept the gift. She apologized and said she'd be back in her room. Your father wanted to take her because she wasn't feeling well. The girl said she was fine and pushed him away, but misjudged her strength. She thought it was her emptying magic. His father was unconscious against the wall while the others tried to call him. They looked at her scared. However, Cordelia ran away from home thinking she understood nothing. She wanted help. She knew today was the flower festival. The town square was decorated with flowers to receive spring. The streets are full of food and salesmen, but this year the festival was cancelled, and they didn't know why. Sitting on a bench, she thought about the past. Ryudo approached her and said he'd show her something. Cleaning his tears, she asked what he meant. He sat in front of her and said it was a bad flower festival, which she agreed to. Ryudo reached out to her and told her to come with him. Though they were the same age, Ryudo looked like an adult, as if his childhood friend were an older brother. Her back looked bigger, but she knew the paths they would take would be different. Although they were always together, from now on it would be different. Cordelia said she was afraid to think and didn't know if she was wrong. Ryudo said it was normal. Cordelia said she was a hero. Ryudo said if she didn't like it, she shouldn't do it. The girl hesitated. Ryudo suggested they run away together, to a place where no one knew she was a hero. He didn't understand himself. Even if two children fled the village, they would not survive. But if she does, she might be with him. She almost agreed with him, when suddenly he said they had arrived. Cordelia was surprised at the beauty of this place. There were lots of cherry flowers there. Ryudo said he bought these seedlings 6 years ago. Cordelia first saw these flowers. She asked what this place was. Ryudo said he did it. Cordelia didn't understand what that meant. He said the girl liked flowers, and he did it for her. Cordelia was shocked. She realized she had received power, but she wasn't the only one who had it. Ryudo, as a farmer, had the power to grow crops. Everyone has a role. It's simple. Its power is the power of struggle and heroism. The power to protect your friends from enemies. She thanked Ryudo. Cordelia asked how long it took her to grow up. Ryudo said about 7 years. It was important to start slowly and with basics. Cordelia said the flowers wouldn't grow this year. Suddenly, Ryudo said a great disaster could happen. He said he had the feeling that the shape of the Earth Spirit had become distorted. Or maybe I was wondering, but she still didn't get it. Cordelia said she understood, and no matter what, she would protect him because she was a hero. That day, all he could see was her crying. 2 days later, Cordelia defended the village. Monsters were approaching them. In the village where Ryuto and Cordelia grew up, no matter what happened, it was her path, and she could not escape her destiny. Cordelia tried to hold on because she had to protect Ryuto. The guy ran around town, avoiding the elves who followed him, wanting to destroy everything in his path. Suddenly he stumbled and fell into the mud. The boy looked tensely when he saw that the monsters were already close. The leprechauns were about to attack him, when suddenly they were destroyed by Cordelia, who managed to come to the rescue. She looked at Ryudo and was very happy that he was alive. Suddenly Ryudo noticed there was a leprechaun after Cordelia, who tried to kill the girl by attacking her from behind. The girl immediately turned around and stopped the enemy's attack with her sword. She was already on edge. Cordelia said she was fine, and she came over to clean things up. Ryudo thought he deliberately delayed his escape. He had to do everything he could to make the events of his previous incarnation repeat. If he used his power to defeat the elves, history would change. If the red dragon does not appear, Ryudo will not be able to enter his lair. In a moment, the boy saw something unexpected in Cordelia's arms, black magic that left an incurable scar on the left arm. Ryudo was curious about why she wore long sleeves even in the summer. He tried to calm down, thinking she wouldn't die from it. He wanted to know why he was thinking of getting stronger, to become a hero, to be in a group of heroes. It's not what he wanted or could want. Why is he silently sharpening his prey? Not for moments like these. As soon as the monster was about to overcome Cordelia, the boy got up. He thought Hajime Rito wouldn't stand aside. He used his skills, increased physical strength, steel body, and also walking demonic. Ryudo thought he was happy to do it. With quick moves, he destroyed the elves one by one, while Cordelia watched quietly, unable to do anything. The blood was dripping from the boy's hands, while the leprechauns were afraid to approach him and attack him. The monsters' faces showed the horror and fear they felt toward Ryuto. Ryuto felt such acute pain, although perseverance was active. He remembered that all people wanted to make her a hero, sacrifice her and put a burden on her soul, the soul of a little girl who had not been able to do anything in this life. He turned to Cordelia and told her to leave the rest to him. The girl asked him to run away, because he was an ordinary peasant and would not be able to defeat so many monsters. Ryudo smiled cruelly and exclaimed that he was the strongest peasant in the world. The villagers didn't understand what was going on and they were panicking, but they realized that Ryudo was there. Listening to this, the oldest McLean took a pitchfork and immediately went to her son. The others took her and started to stop her. In the end, Ryudo's father knocked the girl down. Old McLean thought Ryudo was always doing something secretly, but he didn't know what the purpose was. The boy continued to fight the elves. He noticed that the enemy's weapons were extremely fragile. Ryudo launched them against the enemies who were destroying the city, the village, destroying them even faster. He thought that, as expected of the village chief, it would be good to have those guns at home. Holding a sickle in his hands, he shook it, killing the leprechauns terribly fast. Some of the monsters with bows started shooting. Ryudo activated the ability, Harvest Cultivation, and then raised large stems under it. He climbed them and fought the monsters. He thought he couldn't use it like that. Then Ryudo met a huge monster and asked if he was their boss, to which the elf responded by attacking forward. Ryudo thought this monster was fast and powerful. In an instant the battle turned, and the boy began to suffer damage. He took blows one after the other, but when he was arrested, he took a pitchfork and stabbed her in the monster. Cordelia and the villagers were shocked by what they saw. After that, the monster tried to get up, but the boy used another skill. The next moment, the monster became a mess. The leprechaun fell to the ground, and a second later, a huge foot stepped on it. The dragon appeared before them. He said that the oracle had foreseen, and this happened. The monster looked at them and said that the time of danger to the little creatures had arrived. He noticed that everything was not as expected and asked what happened. Ryudo told the monster to read his mind, because it was a quick way. The monster said the boy had received a promise, and with that he could not refuse, so he would return to the dragon's lair. Ryudo laughed and said a word is a word. The dragon said dragons never lie. The boy asked if he could take the dragon. Cordelia asked where she was going. The kid said he'd go to the dragon's den and come back in 5 years. She asked why. Ryudo said Cordelia is a hero, and even though she's stronger now, she's able to catch him and beat him in a year. She asked if he would become as strong as a monster if he would leave the village, and that he helped the hero as a peasant. Ryudo said he had to, and normal people were no match for heroes. Cordelia said it was obvious. The peasant was stronger than the hero, had done all this while she did not know. He did that while nobody knew. She asked why he compared himself to her. She asked why she couldn't protect him. She cried and asked if he could be like this. She hated not being able to see him for years. Ryudo ran and hugged her. He said he'd definitely come back. After that, he got on the dragon and said goodbye. She said he decides all of his own wishes. Cordelia exclaimed that on the guy's return, she still won't listen. To fulfill his promise to Cordelia, Ryudo planned to become stronger and then definitely return. He went to the dragon's lair, Dragon Lair. In the middle of the continent, deep in the great forest, there is an unknown territory. In the lair, all dragons take human form. Looks like they do it to make it easier for them to build buildings and make clothes. However, the Dragon King's library is surprisingly enormous. The girl said she picked the one that came the day before. Ryudo said I should find the Dragon King. The old man said to call him Sir. This old man was the human incarnation of the red dragon Ryudo had arrived with. The boy said he had to meet the king. The girl said that the king, among all the races of Santa Naga, would find the chosen one. Ryudo said you didn't understand and asked her to do something. The mean girl said her name was Lilith and that her parents gave her that name. Ryudo apologized. The girl noticed he was already 12 the dragon race, only accepted those under 12, especially he couldn't live there. He didn't pay for the bracelets either. They react to his status and show one of the 5 rings. Ryudo realized that to meet the king, his stats had to be above normal. He asked the girl to look at his card. She looked, said he was allowed to meet. The old man asked what she was talking about. The old man looked at the map and was also surprised. Ryudo asked why he was so surprised, since he had read his thoughts. The old man thought it was strange to have an energy barrier. He thought even the king would have difficulty reading his thoughts. In other words, it was hard for them to use mental magic against him. Ryudo found this helpful. It saved him from the trouble of choosing a skill that would protect him from abnormal conditions. Ryudo thanked Lilith, and he and the tired old man left. Very soon, they were in a meeting with the Lord. He said Ryudo could raise his head. The Lord knew immediately that the boy was reincarnated, because his statistics spoke for themselves. Ryudo asked if there were others like him. The Lord said he had a friend like him. He said Ryudo would certainly understand his sense of style. The boy said it suited the Lord. The king thanked you and said that these clothes were avant-garde in this world. Ryudo agreed and asked where God got them. The king said it was an accident. Like Ryudo, he had 5 suitcases to travel, and he took them out by chance. Ryudo said he could travel everywhere as a master. The Lord gave the boy permission to read all the books that were in the Demon King's library. The old man said he was now responsible for the boy, and he wouldn't be able to bear such a burden if Ryudo did anything. The king said that in this case he would take responsibility. Anyone with 5 gold rings had the same rights as a dragon. Or they could make that person a dragon through a ceremony. Ryudo asked what that meant. The old man said it was a special treatment that had not been used before. Instead of judging him for his sin, they could accept him as one of the dragons. Suddenly the Lord said he had not given the old man the right to raise his head. After that, he fell to his knees. Ryudo was deceived by the king's carelessness. He could get rid of Ryudo in an instant, but he had no intention of changing his usual speech. He asked why the Lord treated him like this. The king said he had 2 reasons. The first was the boy's distorted status. Only the boy's mana was superior to the Lord, and he respected him. Ryudo was surprised by the simplicity. The Lord said it meant respecting the strong. He asked if it was the boy's second attempt in the world. Ryudo confirmed it. The Lord said there was another reason for your attitude. He asked if Ryudo could understand that his actions were leading the world to destruction. The boy was very surprised. He asked if it was the cause of the destruction of the world. The king realized he didn't notice. I was connected to Cordelia. Only one of the 4 oracle heroes in this world was. The most important people protecting the world from disaster. The Lord has confirmed that heroes must destroy the darkness of despair with their swords of hope. He asked if heroes should not be strong men who protect the weak. Ryudo asked what the problem was. The Lord asked what would happen if the peasant protected the hero. From the moment Ryudo repelled the elves, history followed the path of madness. Cordelia had to get hurt while protecting Ryudo. Without relying on the hero's favor, she would strive to become stronger. The Lord said it was Ryudo's feeling now. He talked about wanting to get stronger to protect his loved ones. It was stronger than anything. A 15-year-old girl became a dragon slayer. He asked if Ryudo thought anyone could go there on a whim. The attack on the elf was an event that could wake her up. But Ryudo took care of it. He saved his savior and created a series of paradoxes. This was the predetermined fate for the world. And now they've been confronted with a dubious transition to another path. Dragon Killer is the name of a hero who gave his life and effort to prepare for an adventure. The Lord couldn't predict everything, and he didn't know how disaster would come. However, he knew that the world had fallen into destruction. The Lord was disappointed, but it made no sense. Ryudo's actions were about changing the world. Ryudo asked if Cordelia wouldn't last long as a hero. The Lord said she wouldn't be able to defeat the dragon again this time, and she would die. Ryudo asked if it meant she only needed stronger steel. He said he would take the path of the strong stronger than a hero. The Lord smiled, thinking of the peasant domesticating the evil dragon. Ryudo said he'd be Cordelia's replacement and take care of himself so the hero could be weak like her. The Lord asked if Ryudo would be a heroic protector. The kid confirmed that. He asked the Lord to hurry and transmit the divine protection of the Dragon King. The Lord grabbed Ryudo's head and asked if he was letting go. The boy said the dragon's path was much more effective, but he would sell his soul to demons if he didn't follow the dragon's path. The Lord asked if Ryudo understood the meaning of his words. The kid said otherwise he wouldn't want to. But that's why he lowered his head. The Lord did not believe these words. The old man thought he wanted to go home. The Lord asked if Ryudo really thought it would allow those who were bound by a pact with demons to live. He said he'd hear Ryudo's last request, if there was anything else. The boy said the king liked that kind of game. The Lord hit him in the head and said it was true, and people like Ryudo were his favorite. After that, they shook hands. With this action, the Lord transmitted the divine protection of the Dragon King. It suppresses the primary factors of the peasant in relation to leveling. With that, Ryudo could go up. In another world, the way to gain experience was to take the life force of the enemy and use it to improve. However, he was always on level 1, has improved more easily. Moreover, the profession was a level of growth controlled by God's curse. This is corrected by the protection of the dragon god. She changed the growth limits of the peasant to one of the dragons, who cannot overcome the profession of hero, but the rate of growth is higher along with the wise. God said time was running out and asked if there was anything else. Rita said that's all he wanted. The king asked what the boy would do next. Ryudo said Yod work hard to get up. 2 days have passed since the elf's attack. After that, the government sent researchers to count losses. The officers wrote everything the peasant said. They established a law of silence and destroyed all information about Ryudo's birth. They'll say it was the hero's efforts. People asked for an explanation that was a cloud of memory due to chaos. Upon meeting the clean family, Cordelia began to apologize. She couldn't say it right, but she believed it was her fault that Ryudo went to the dragon's lair. Because of her, he did this crazy thing. McLean asked the girl not to worry. He left alone, and the guys have to be nice in front of the girls. McLean's mom said he was going away. They'd protect the house so he could come back. Cordelia was grateful to them. In the forest on the outskirts of the dragon's lair, in the underground maze, the first trial right test occurred. Ryudo ran away from the monster and cried out he couldn't win. The trial monsters cannot leave the room, so Ryudo lodged in a corner. His expedition was planned months ago, and the problem was that he wasn't ready. Lilith asked if he'd give up. This was a trial ritual necessary for a first-rate peasant. A few hours ago, they met, and Lilith asked if there were any signs of a struggle. Ryudo began to explain, but decided not to go into detail. He said he heard Lilith was leaving the dragon's lair tomorrow. He asked if it was true. The girl went pale. Ryudo said he thought so. He asked if it was because of him coming. Lilith said it was none of her business, and she had no protector. What the red dragon and the king said. The only condition for humans to live in the lair of a dragon is the existence of a dragon watching over them. The dragon of the earth who cared for her has recently aged. Ryudo knew that people without protectors had to leave the lair. He thought it was cruel, because Lilith was a person with 3 gold rings. He asked if there was anything they could do. The girl pulled the hood and showed the mark on her neck. That was the worst part, the mark of a slave. It was a symbol of weakness. It was a hard coexistence in a dragon world where power was absolute. The mark is a brainwashing ability. It's a curse that can't be undone or erased, making someone incapable of going against the rules. Before reaching the lair, Lilith was a slave until she reached the age of recognition. Even now, she was a child and still couldn't do anything. Ryudo knew nothing good would happen to Lilith if she returned to the outside world. She said everything was fine because she had a name. With a name, she can keep living anywhere. Ryudo saw Cordelia in it. He wanted to say something, but he thought it best to say it directly. He gave him the bag and told him to prepare for a trip, because they were going underground. He ran into a fit of rage, but all ended the same way. As human, but he became a dranked dragon citizen. To become a guardian, he had to become a mature dragon. So he went through all the formalities to become an adult dragon, all to save Lilith. The girl said she understood he was a strong peasant, and she was glad he wanted to save her. She asked him to stop taking risks. She made the decision as a slave. Ryudo told her to be quiet. He didn't want her to live like this. She'd be in trouble if he died because of her. He had time to back off and take the test later. It wasn't a solution. If Ryudo abandoned her, he couldn't be a replacement for the hero. He was doing it for himself. Lilith didn't answer. Ryudo thought the soil system was fragile and he could dig through it. He asked Lilith to pick up a lot of branches. Lilith carried a pile of branches into the cave and couldn't help but think that Ryudo had said before that newly cut branches would be extremely useful, but she didn't quite understand why they needed them. Suddenly, the girl was extremely surprised. Right in front of her was Ryudo, who greeted her. In one of his hands, he held a burning stick, and with the other, he created a fire. Ryudo said this was the end of preparation. Lilith looked at the pile of wood that was next to Ryudo and asked when he was able to catch it. Lilith didn't see the wood before she left. Ryudo said he held the branch as he walked. If he uses his cultivation capacity even on a dry trunk, it will quickly dry and become a large trunk. Ryudo was going to use a fire to create smoke. He studied the information about the trials with the wisdom of the ancestors. Ryudo was curious what would happen if he threw logs through a hole in the walls and then burned them with fire and aerial magic. 10 hours later, he got an answer. Entering the room, he said that as a result, they killed the doorman with poison. Lilith was surprised because she didn't understand what the guy did. They advanced, while Ryudo thought he had risen since he broke up with the Guardian. Your next test was the steel golem. Ryudo thought this place was the same as what was said. The golem was small, with high maneuverability and defense. With his attack, he wouldn't be able to hurt him with a sword. In that case, Ryudo decided to find another way. He held a small device in front of him, which quickly got up and turned into a small shovel. This maneuver surprised Lilith, who was watching Ryudo's actions. Lilith asked what she was doing. In response, the boy said he was digging a hole. He was setting a trap using the basic skills of a peasant. The guy said it would take some time, so the girl should go to sleep. Lilith said they couldn't do that. They had spent a lot of time in the first trial, and the dungeon was huge. They wouldn't be able to finish the lower floor in half a day. That's what Lilith thought. Ryudo asked why they had to complete the dungeon at that time. Lilith was silent. Ryudo said they were in the dungeon now, and no one would come and take them away. Ryudo asked if they should finish on schedule. Lilith said they should. Ryudo asked if she was serious. He told her not to worry about the time in the dungeon. The girl said she still believed in it. She said if they kept acting like this, she'd be mad. Ryudo said in this case, she should be angry. The girl was surprised. After that she growled at him. After that, she shrunk strangely. Ryudo thought he was doing what he was saying wrong. He understood how big her former protector was. He decided he couldn't leave Lilith alone in this world. 15 hours later, they were going underground as planned. With his improvements, he ran under the golem. He was accused of all his strength. Then he used a series of attacks that successfully dropped the golem into the well. They looked into the hole with joy. Ryudo said it was all over for the Iron Doll without a mind. This hole was covered in oil, and that was enough to keep him from leaving. This test is to train dragons against stupid opponents, and the way to defeat one is simply to throw it in the well. Lilith asked if it was correct. Ryudo said had explained it before, and his skill was wisdom. They opened the next door. At this point, Ryudo said he knew there was something better waiting for them. They've entered the bonus level. Lilith asked what it was. Ryudo said it was a leprechaun breeding field, a place to feed family members off the test. There's a lot of family in the dungeon for tests. Of course, they need a place to feed and grow. Ryudo was grabbed by the leprechauns and said this is life being prepared to be eaten, and it's very difficult. Their lives are shortened to the convenience of others. Ryudo was the same. But the guy killed the elves and said he could. He wiped his own blood, and he said there'd be an underground lake up ahead. On the way, they found a catfish. Ryudo asked if it was an island. This guy was slippery, and Ryudo couldn't do anything. However, they needed water, and he wanted to wash the leprechaun's blood. Ryudo sank in the water, which scared Lilith. He told her not to worry, because he was prepared for anything. He added that the catfish should hibernate. In the blink of an eye, Ryudo was caught and dragged underwater. He found it impossible, because the catfish couldn't move while hibernating. All of a sudden, he realized that the catfish was asleep, and what took him was another. Ryudo met the monster face to face. He attacked him, not wanting to be underestimated. If he was big, Ryudo could fight. He didn't understand why he still had air, but he thought it was because of the increased statistics. He swam up. He realized it was the baby whale catfish who had woken up earlier or had broken his hibernation. That would teach Ryudo a lesson not to trust ancient literature. Suddenly, the boy was caught again. Dad's awake. Ryudo didn't understand why he woke up from his sleep. He assumed he smelled blood or maybe he was angry about killing the baby. The kid thought he should find a way to escape now. Suddenly he realized he couldn't use magic. He also drowned in his past life because of Moses. Suddenly, a flash of electricity was heard through the water. After a while, the boy was lying on the floor while Lilith coughed up. She said with Ryudo's magical level, she bet he could handle it. So she put it all in the punch. She raised her hand and said she had 3 gold bracelets. Ryudo asked why she didn't run away. He reminded her that when they entered the maze, she promised to run away if he had problems. Listening to this, Lilith hit the guy. She told him not to mock her. She asked how she could stand there doing nothing, knowing he was in the water. She started crying and asked him not to take full responsibility for himself. He thought of Cordelia again. The girl told him not to waste his life. She asked him not to save her alone. She asked what she would do if Ryudo died because of her. The boy took your face and suggested that you do anything to survive. He asked if it was enough. Lilith smiled in response. The 4th trial was the Hall of the Living Dead. This is more of a maze complex with high-level undead than a hallway. There's no water here, and the only way to refuel supplies is to return to the previous point, the underground lake. Even if the test takes several weeks, it can be completed in 20 minutes. Ryudo jumped with Lilith in his arms and said the mission was completed. The rule of all mazes: if you notice the mark and change it according to the rule, you will quickly pass the maze. This is a test of knowledge of ancient scripts and recognition of drawings. Lilith noticed that they escaped every test. She didn't think they could defeat the Guardians at levels as deep as this. Ryudo said they couldn't if they kept falling. Together, they looked through the tube. There they saw the 5th trial, the lower fire dragon's nest. Not a dragon, but a lower dragon. Although lower fire dragons have less brains than a domestic lizard, they are as dangerous in combat as normal dragons. Lilith said that's why she said to gain experience at early levels. Ryudo agreed with her. The guy threw something away and said he was top and bottom. He took a shovel and said they needed to rest first. Lilith wanted to stop him, but he took her. He told her not to force herself. After all, she had used all her sister against the whale catfish. It was safe here, and preparation would take half a day, regardless of your choice. Then she should rest. After those words, she really started to sleep. Lilith remembered the time she was a slave. People were cruel to her. One day those who oppressed her were killed by dragons. The girl found these dragons beautiful. She was extremely close to her savior, and because of that, she had great difficulty dealing with his aging. She woke up crying. Lilith wondered how long she'd been asleep. It was hot and shiny. Ryudo noticed she'd gotten up. The guy was covered in blood when he asked if she had a good rest. Lilith was very surprised. Ryudo said it was because he was using too much magic. He was bearable with his ability, but he kept taking away his health. He said he would distinguish himself with recovery magic after finishing what he had to do. Lilith asked what it was. Ryudo said it was arson. The girl noticed a lot of smoke and thought he was doing it all the time. She exclaimed there was no way out. Even the dragon's breath could knock down a wooden structure if it was fired continuously. But Ryudo's life force wasn't that good. Bleeding, Ryudo said it's no use talking if it could be done. Crazy guy said he had to do it. Lilith thought it was on fire, but it was dangerous. Suddenly, a strong wind came up. The girl was surprised that the fire spread so fast. Ryudo explained that the roots are linked to the entire structure. He took the small seeds that were under the building. He said that these roots grow rapidly if you add heat and nutrition to them. Also, if he uses his ability, it will increase the growth rate. It was the incomprehensible power of plants. They can create cracks and destroy strong structures. He raised his hands on a spell and said that all it took was to add a little fire and wind to these little cracks. In the blink of an eye, all the dragons were on fire. Ryudo's level instantly began to rise faster and faster. While cleaning the blood, he said that, as a wizard, he needed extensive knowledge of magic to kill an enemy with a blow. He thought he'd ask the Dragon King about it. He said he seemed to care about those who rejected Lilith. He didn't see the point of becoming a dragon keeper now. Listening to this, Lilith couldn't stop laughing, and she burst laughing. Clearing tears of laughter, the girl said she was surprised because Ryudo had exceeded all her expectations. She could only laugh. Ryudo looked at her quietly, then noticed that monsters were running towards them. He raised his hands and said it was over now. He passed level 80 with that. The boy quickly activated the skill, Growing Farm, which broke the ground and rose. In a few moments, there was no trace of the monsters. He told Lilith it was time to come back. They could climb using the remaining supports and vineyards. He prepared his equipment to deliver final blows to the whale catfish and the armed golem. He took the huge hammer from the Minotaur and said it was exactly what they needed. Ryudo threw the gun in the air easily, then threw it up and grabbed it easily. He was surprised by the gun light. He assumed it was the effect of leveling. He smiled, thinking if that was the reason, he'd have to try again. Along with Lilith, they returned to the second test, the armed golem. Ryudo threw a fishing rod into the hole, then quickly lifted the monster. Swinging the gun hard, he destroyed the golem. The boy was proud and glad he finally reached the 100th level. After reaching level 100, he'd get a skill that differentiates an expert from a common one. Quote, Master of the Profession. The skill was weak compared to the magical attack, but it was a great skill for a peasant. Who knows what someone like Ryudo with a magical power of about 20 will be capable of? He wanted to find out. Ryudo turned to Lilith and asked if she could wait for him for a while. After that, the confident guy went back to the third test, the whale catfish. Ryudo immediately activated the skill, Fury of the Peasant. The guy smiled presumptuously and thought this experience had shown incredible success. However, it would be extremely difficult to use in a real fight. The boy felt exhausted in little Lilith's arms. He said the mana draining this skill was really impressive to the imagination. The girl was very surprised when she noticed Ryudo had fallen asleep. She thought it couldn't be. Then she smiled tenderly and sighed. Lilith put the kid in her lap and caressed his head. They only had one more test, but this test was much worse. Ryudo held the Minotaur's hammer in one hand and Lilith's hand in the other. The final test was the final battle with the zombie dragon. While they were falling, Ryudo said the zombie dragon was no different from the dragon before he died. Lilith said their souls were kept in their bodies by the dragon's secret arts after death. Ryudo asked what almost death meant. The girl explained that he could not become a guardian in his weakened state, even if he was undead. The real purpose of this test was to honor the passage of generations. Ancient dragons who became zombies passed their skills to the new victorious generation in this ritual. Through this ritual, zombies with high deity can become dragon gods and ascend. This ability increases the limit of all FAMs by almost 15 times. It can't be compared to the skill of a level 100 hero, but to make an advance on the hero level, Ryudo wanted to get that skill at any cost. Together they walked down the dark corridor. They went downstairs, towards the light. As soon as they left for a large, bright room, Ryudo noticed that there was an extremely large altar. Together, they found an incredible-sized dragon. Upon seeing him, Lilith immediately recognized him as her father, with whom she spent her childhood. When the girl tried to go to him, Ryudo stopped him and looked hard. He started analyzing what happened in this place. The Earth Dragon, Lilith's father, died a month ago. There was no sign that anyone had passed the test ritual during that time. After going through the ritual, it takes at least a month for the maze to be restored to its original state. Ryudo ran as fast as he could and ran to the dragon. The monster didn't wait long and also ran to attack. Using a large amount of land, the dragon created small slabs that he started shooting at the boy. Suddenly, Ryudo's face was found with a huge bat. He rolled back and fell on his belly. The Earth Dragon began to slowly approach the boy, but he noticed that something was holding him. Ryudo didn't waste any time. The guy managed to activate his ability, cultivating agricultural crops. Using vines, he chained the dragon to the ground. Ryudo started climbing off the ground. The next moment, the dragon easily lifted one of his paws, not even paying attention to the guy's trap. Ryudo was genuinely surprised. He realized that the dragon had discovered his tactics, because the seeds he had planted earlier in the monster had instantly opened due to excess mana pumping into them. After getting rid of Ryudo's marks on himself, the Earth Dragon shook his paw hard and hit the boy. With his attack, he knocked the kid down and hit the wall behind him. As Ryudo came out of the ground, all he could think was that this dragon was a terribly strong enemy to him. The monster tried to give the boy the final blow, but he quickly jumped back and went up into the air. After Ryudo got close enough to the monster, he was able to release his fishing rod, which quickly caught the enemy. The boy smiled naughtily and thought it didn't seem like he could fight this dragon. Suddenly Ryudo slipped violently across the surface and fell at incredible speed. At that moment he understood a little about why the dragons considered this battle sacred. Suddenly, he received a strong attack on his face and began rolling even faster as Lilith watched. With this battle, the dragons want to test their strength to overcome their former selves. The dragon hit the boy, and he shot towards the ceiling like a bullet, leaving cracks and a mark on him. Ryudo couldn't believe how strong his enemy was. Having lost his strength, the boy began to fall right into the grip of the terrible monster. Despite all the difficulty, Ryudo felt that this was incredibly fun. Right now, the guy used several of his abilities, Steel Body, and also Demon Gate. The guy pushed me away from the gun and ran down. He always used only, quote, improvement of physical ability. Even if he used all his skills, he wouldn't be able to compare it to a real dragon. However, using 2 reinforcement skills at the same time, he had every chance to exceed the dragon's expectations. The boy shook his arm hard, intending to hit the monster with all the force he had. To do that, Ryudo activated the skill, Fury of the Peasant. The attack came in the form of a wave of defense of the mind that immediately struck the monster and struck him with that power. In a few moments, Ryudo stood before the dragon, who was covered with his own blood from head to toe. With some effort, Ryudo lifted the huge hammer of the Minotaur, which he shook, wanting to destroy the dragon. Just before the final blow, Ryudo noticed something that changed his mind. He threw the Minotaur's hammer on the floor without giving the final blow. Lilith, who was silent the whole time, asked why he had stopped. The girl's face was crushed. Breathing a lot, Ryudo said he couldn't do that. He said he couldn't do that while Lilith was making that face. Looking at her, he saw how she was crying. His expression expressed melancholy and regret. The girl herself didn't understand why she was shedding tears. Her father had already become a divine dragon, and that was extremely good, or so she thought. Lilith turned her back on Ryudo and began to wipe her tears. The kid said it was because Lilith was human. He asked if she thought the same. He said that although she was accustomed to the various terms of the dragon, Lilith's human part resisted, and nothing could be done about it. Ryudo said she was the one who needed to end this monster with her bare hands. It was Lilith, who was the daughter of the Earth Dragon. Being both a dragon and a human, she simply had to do what her father wanted her to do more than anything else. He told her to finally accept the fact that their family was long gone. Lilith turned to worry and said so. In that case, the blessing of the divine dragon would go to her, not him. Ryudo smiled lovingly and said he didn't have to worry about these things, because everything would be fine. Tears appeared in the little girl's eyes again. Ryudo told Lilith to show her father that she could handle everything herself. Those words gave Lilith strength. She lowered the hood and went to the dragon, so she hugged him carefully. Lilith started crying again, but this time she managed to smile. She sincerely thanked her father for taking care of her in the past. A bright light emanated from the dragon's body, illuminating the entire room. The dragon's body, which was lying silently on the ground, began to crumble in an instant, rising into the air with rays of light and heat. The little girl sat next to those rays, not letting her walk away. After a few moments, nothing left of the dragon except memories. Lilith sat on the floor, discouraged, thinking about what had happened. Ryudo approached her and hugged her carefully, after which Lilith gave in and began to cry. With great weight, she asked to let her stay in her arms a little longer. It was all she could do at that moment. Ryudo smiled and told her to cry all she wanted. After that short talk, they hugged in silence. This moment reminded Lilith of her father, who also embraced her when she was a little girl. Ryudo asked if she could calm down. Lilith said she did, and after that she sincerely appreciated it. After a while, Ryudo had a small roll in his hand with which he could see his abilities. Ryudo thought that even if he didn't get the skill he came to this place. It should have been just a higher level. The notification said that a new skill had been acquired, whose name was Blessing of the Divine Dragon. The effect of this skill was that it increased the threshold of all fans at once and a half. He did not understand why he had achieved this ability, considering it was Lilith who made the final move, not him. Suddenly, the guy turned to the girl, who was also holding a piece of paper. She said she didn't understand anything either. Lilith received a skill called Divine Spirit Guardian of the Dragon. The effect of this ability was to increase resistance to diseases. It greatly increases the rate of growth, attack, defense, magic, and evasion. After reading this, Ryudo simply couldn't contain his laughter. Realizing the whole situation, he stopped trying, making him explode laughing. Lilith looked at the kid in trouble, who kept laughing. Ryudo thought he knew something like this would happen to them on this test. Lilith started asking Ryudo why she was laughing. After the boy calmed down, he apologized to her. Ryudo also added that Lilith's father, the Earth Dragon, seemed to be a very thoughtful but extremely stupid father. Giving him that skill, it was as if he were asking Ryudo to take care of his daughter. The guy hit Lilith on the shoulder and said that her father was next to her now. Hearing that, she was very surprised. Ryudo added that a spirit was with her. Hearing that, tears appeared in Lilith's eyes again. Some time after this battle, the guys decided to rest and drink tea. Lilith asked what they would do after they returned to the surface. Ryudo said he would spend some time in the Demon King's library, and after that, he would probably travel the world, leveling, collecting skills and various equipment. While drinking hot tea, Ryudo stated that he would become Lilith's protector and ensure for her in the future. He said that's why she can afford to do whatever she wants. He said she might even continue her work as a librarian in the city. At this moment, Lilith looked at him with some concern. Realizing Lilith's behavior, Ryudo turned and smiled, asking if she wanted to go with him or not. In response, the cheerful girl said she would be very happy. Cordelia wonders when she realizes there's no such thing as shining armor. She remembers how, as a child, someone came to her to announce that she was a hero, and how she was in front of a crowd of people hiding their true faces behind a mask. Little Cordelia tells the boy sitting next to her that she will become a hero. She says she must fight for everyone in this world. The boy asks what she wants. Cordelia says she wants to protect everyone, but she's scared. She admits she's afraid of these demons, evil dragons, demon lords, and so are those smiles. She wonders what they're hiding behind the expression on their faces. The girl cries, claiming she can't, and even if she wants to believe it, she still can't. Ryudo said you'd help her. He claims that no matter where she is or who her opponent is, he will run and defeat them all. So he tells her to be confident and do what she wants. Cordelia remembers that his words made her happy. She remembers this guy seemed strangely grown up to her, and in childhood she was like a little sister to him, and he was an older brother to her. She thinks Hez her knight in shining armor. Cordelia realizes that they're different because Hez a peasant and she's a hero, and her status, growth rates, and abilities are all different, so the difference between them is huge. The girl remembers that although they were not against her, those around her did not recognize her and did not forgive her, but she was happy. She believes that a hero can simply protect the residents, and protecting all their lives and smiles is her job. However, she recalls that this phenomenon happened on her 12th birthday. The peasant became stronger than the hero himself. Cordelia realizes that the boy's strength was 100 paces behind her at the time, and she never thought he'd be able to save her from anything. She wonders if there's anything like a knight in shining armor. However, she has a friend who will protect the world with her. The whole crowd laughs, and the boy asks if she told the story again. He says she was a child, and there's no way a peasant could become stronger than a hero. Cordelia says, thanks to him, she escaped death. The kid claps his hands, says everyone can start laughing. He asks if her peasant came out in shining armor with the dragon. He asks if he was so scared he ran away. The knight says not to laugh at the lady. He asks if there are other stories of young peasants who were able to defeat goblins alone. Cordelia screams it's true. The knight answers that, despite this, even if you killed 100 elves now and gained experience with it, given their growth rate, they would not be able to fight side by side. The boy says he's making fun of Lady Cordelia. The knight shouts to Cordelia that he certainly did not want to embarrass her. He adds that he was just adding a little credibility to her words. Cordelia reflects on the fact that the incident with the elves 3 years ago was recorded and published to suggest that their magical powers were out of their control. She remembers that a boy named Ryuto died, and his death obscured her memory, and they said that this story was an illusion she created herself. She thinks if Ryuto were here. The girl hits herself in the face and says she's gonna go for a walk and clear her head. The guy says if she's gonna pick flowers, they're in the other direction. The knight shouts at him that he's drunk. The man hits the boys in the head and tells them to stop acting like this. Another man explains that the only reason they are drinking in the depths of the forest is because of the skill of the hero of the sixth sense, so they must be grateful. Cordelia drinks water from a barrel. She says the target of the expedition is the sandworms, and they receive direct orders from the executioners that the monsters here are very strong and all the knights defeat the monsters easily and without their help. She starts to feel something weird, and suddenly someone calls her name. Squadron leader stands in front of her and asks if something is wrong. The girl just nods and the leader yells at all the fighters to pay attention to him. He orders you to form a circle of 5 people per team and remain alert, even if you do not see the enemy in front of them. Everyone prepares for battle, and Cordelia reports that there is only one enemy, but she has a bad feeling about it. The girl said you should leave. Squadron leader shouts for everyone to retreat and maintain formation. Suddenly, someone cuts the head off the squad leader. All riders look at the horrified dead commander. The girl with the umbrella laughed, asking if they thought they could escape her. She wonders if they were trying to escape her. She says she won't let anyone get away, because she's gonna kill them all. Cordelia realizes it's the evil dragon, Amantha. She recognizes the shape and the aura, and she knows she can't be mistaken. She remembers she's been devouring young heroes so far, and believes she's now her target. Cordelia decides everyone will fight. She turns to the knights, shouting that this is war, and commands everyone to surround her. The knights don't move. Amantha asks if she's retarded. She asks her opinion on why she killed the group leader first. Cordelia realizes that the knights trusted her sixth sense, and everyone realized that the evil dragon was stronger than her. She realizes that besides her hero title, she's just a little girl, and none of the knights will listen to her orders. The commander shouts at the knights to remain vigilant. He orders you to line up in groups of 3. He screams that they are not afraid, claiming that there is only one evil dragon here, and if they fight well, it will not defeat them. The knights are inspired and prepared to fight the evil dragon. The knights remember that on the day the new hero was introduced to them, they swore they would be the knights who would help the hero. The knights cast the wind spell, and a gust of air strikes the evil dragon, but it doesn't even move. It then activates its triple shield charge ability. Amantha attacks them with an umbrella. Cordelia realizes that the shields are a trick, a winning tactic, which depends on one person to use parry to seal the enemy's abilities, and the other 2 to use a counterattack skill. The knight gets hurt and realizes he hasn't been sealed, but still has got her. Several knights attack the evil dragon Amantha at the same time, using the hammer. Amantha cuts off the heads of all the knights who attacked her. Cordelia attacks Amantha, but she steps on her head with her foot and knocks it down. Amantha holds her foot on Cordelia's head and screams that they are so fragile and soft because she just caressed them gently and they all broke. She admits it's so hard for her to contain herself. The knights are frightened and run away horrified before the evil dragon Amantha. Amantha asks if they are still thinking of running away from her. She exclaims that it is very good and creates several huge orcs for them, blocking their escape route. The orcs attack the knights. Amantha pulls Cordelia's hair and asks if they were called orcs hunters. She said the orcs wanted to thank them, so she took them with her and asked what they would do now. Orcs kill knights one by one, sparing no one. She throws Cordelia on the floor and tells her to look because her friends have come back to her. Cordelia looks up to see her dead companions heading straight for her. Amantha asks if they are alone. She claims that's why they must contaminate the hero and the monsters attack Cordelia. The girl, with tears in her eyes, uses her sword to cut off her former companions. She defeats an orc, screaming at all the knights to calm down. She tells the knights that if they fight in cold blood, they can. The knights flee in fear, and Cordelia tries to stop them. Amantha kills the runaway knights with the energy bullet. Cordelia thinks her energy bullet is too heavy. Amantha asks the hero how he feels. She says she can clearly understand that the hero is not able to organize this terrible order of knights. Cordelia cuts off the evil dragon's energy ball, and Amantha says she's good enough to cut her power ball. Amantha asks how she will deal with it, and attacks her with several magical attacks at the same time. Cordelia dodges almost all her blows with her sword. Cordelia, exhausted, realizes she can't raise her arms anymore. Amantha happily asks if she has given up yet. Amantha attacks her again, and Cordelia manages to escape at the last moment. But Amantha didn't stop her attack. The evil dragon laughs, assuring him that this is his last blow, and continues to attack her in different parts of his body. Amantha approaches Cordelia and asks if she knew she was alone. She asks if you're lonely. There's a pile of knights on the ground, killed by Amantha or the orcs. Amantha tells her there are many orcs here, and asks if she is happy. Cordelia doesn't answer, and Amantha admits she likes everything. The evil dragon Amantha grabs the hero by the hand and says she loves to see how orcs eat people. Amantha explains that the orcs begin to eat people from their toes. She says that at first people scream for help or ask not to kill them during their agony. But soon, they start wanting to be killed as soon as possible. Amantha asks Cordelia if she knew that she loves these expressions so much that she allows them to live forever, restoring magic. Amantha exclaims that she will never tire of looking at this expression, which she simply adores. She admits she wants to hug him. Amantha laughs, enjoying her victory. Cordelia wonders if she could avoid this humiliation. Amantha suddenly puts her hand in Cordelia's mouth and pulls something out. She holds her hand and asks what it is. Amantha swallows and says that means she planned to end her life with this poison. Amantha asks Cordelia if she knows she failed as a hero. She asks if she has ever used the close heart spell, which restores psychological status to Category B heroes. Amantha throws her down, clarifying that she is trying to lose her senses before she even begins. She claims to be confused because it's hard to dispel a hero's psychological ability. She steps away from her and says it's the most boring thing during the loss. Amantha will kill her completely, claiming she's very boring. Amantha's magical attack is taken by Ryudo, who suddenly appears. He attacks the orcs and Cordelia begins to realize what is happening. She gets up and thinks that can't happen. She looks at him and realizes that this is her knight in shining armor. Ryudo turns around and apologizes to her, saying he was late. He said he heard Cordelia met the evil dragon Amantha in the forest, but he didn't know all the details. He said he came to her door after hearing brilliant flashes of magic shots. He cures her with magic and helps her feet. He asks if her hand is shaking. Cordelia said she promised, and she admits she won't listen. Ryudo hugs her, apologizing for causing trouble again. Cordelia starts crying in her arms. Amantha attacks them with magic, but he defends himself with his work and covers Cordelia with his body. The evil dragon exclaims that it's cool that he was able to defend himself from his magic bullet again. Ryudo asks Amantha not to go to church for the next meeting, even if he finally has a good drink. Amantha asks the boy who he is. She asks if he's a hero, but adds he doesn't smell like a hero. Ryudo smiles and asks if he is. Ryudo confidently says he's a peasant and asks what happens now. The girl says she doesn't feel anything about him, but she wonders if it's because he's a peasant who makes him so strong. She thinks it's weird, but she doesn't feel anything about him. The guy ironically asks that. On the other hand, it didn't help her much that she was an evil dragon. The girl smiled at him in response. Ryudo looks at the bodies of the fallen knights and asks if she had a reason to kill them. He wonders if dragons seek battles with strong opponents, and if this was not just a simple massacre. The girl answers asking why she might have to crush them. She clarifies that if it's so important, maybe because it was funny. Ryudo attacks her, trying to cut her head off and yell at her to stop laughing. The girl can avoid his attack. She avoids all blows. And then he clarifies that he has a very rare sword. She asks where he got it from. She lands on the tip of his sword and says this sword does not seem to fit her. He blurs his sword and answers that he also thinks so. Cordelia thinks Ryudo's become too strong. The young man yells at her not to interfere with this fight. Ryudo asks her to leave it to him. He says it's more than enough for this evil dragon, and adds he wants to believe in something. He asks Cordelia to look after the remaining orcs, and shouts at the evil dragon to follow him. Cordelia turns around and sees a crowd of huge orcs in front of her. The evil dragon flies after him, telling him not to run away. She claims he provoked her, so now she wants to play with him. She says she's curious about what he wanted to experience. She asks what funny thing he said. Ryudo lands on the ground and says hell tell her. It activates the abilities, physical skill, steel body and demon gate. He punches her in the face, telling Amanta to fly back. She flies back a few feet. Ryudo moves to his opponent lying on the ground. Amanta scares the boy with his face. She asks if he's scared. She admits she was surprised. She says making a hole in her when she's relaxed with an attack is a simple but effective solution. Amanta claims the attack was weak because he was unable to defeat her. It increases power and Ryudo kicks it. He attacks her and rips her head off, but regenerates quickly. She means his very good, but she doesn't have time to finish, because he attacks her again. Amanta realizes that her attacks aren't stopping, and she doesn't understand what's happening. She starts getting angry and screaming she doesn't believe. She begins to activate her powers and humorously apologizes for throwing him out of his pace. She tells Ryudo she'll show some of her true power. He asks if this is the sending ability that only the dragon race can use. He declares he can use it too. Amanta is shocked by your words. She asks in confusion how a simple peasant can use the secret ability of the dragon race. Ryudo replies that after a series of events, he was unofficially appointed as the next Dragon King. He shows you the ring, and tells you to look at it, as it is proof of his words. Amanta exclaims that this is impossible. She screams asking if he stole the ring. She shouts yes, because there is no other way to explain why a peasant can use the power of the dragon god, who is only available to the Dragon King. He begins to activate the ability of the dragon god's arrival, and asks if that's what she was talking about. He says it's her turn now, and he asks her to show him what she can do. She thinks it can't be, because has neither a warrior nor a hero, but only a peasant, but he uses secret dragon skills one after the other. She realizes that this is not an illusion, and this is really the dragon god coming. What do you ask? Is it really that she's shaking, and she, the most terrible and evil dragon, is frightened by a simple peasant? She reflects on how this guy didn't use magic. She realizes that if she thinks about it, working as a peasant, she should not be able to use magic because it is closed to him. She wears bandages. Binding deprives young people of any mobility and ability to use their skills. Amanta is happy and laughing, saying that as he became the next Dragon King, she thinks he is capable of anything. However, his mind is not capable of using defensive magic, and he was so foolish that he did not use anti-magical equipment. She declares that she will show her true power. She tells Ryudo that this is her total power, and she is known as abnormal due to the number of demonic eyes she possesses. Amanta approaches him and explains that when the eyes of the demon are activated, his magic is amplified 3 times. She asks if he knew there's no man who can resist her charm. She takes him by the chin and asks him to become her servant, saying that she will treat him well. Ryudo kicks her and says he shouldn't show something so dirty, adding he almost threw up. Love falls to the ground squirming in pain, and the boy asks if she's saying this is her full power. He admits he knew in advance that his dragon charm would have no effect on him. He thanks her, saying that thanks to her, he felt that he had really become much stronger. He claims he broke up with her and told her to die. Amanda wonders what he said. It reflects on how she, the one who is the personification of force, the one whose strength is at the level of calamity, the one who, because of her strength, is considered a heretic of the most powerful dragon race. She asks what, did he really dare to treat a dragon as bad as Amanta and ask her to die? She smiles terribly and thinks she agrees to die. Love muses that death has no meaning for an evil dragon, and even if they die of old age or battle, they will still rise at their peak after a while. She realizes the next time will be in 300 years, but then this guy will no longer be around, and in the future she will have to play with other weaker opponents again. Ryudo draws his sword, which shines with magic, and tells her there will never be a next time for her. Amanda wonders why he has changed so much. She asks him not to say what kind of sword he is. However, Ryudo announces that it is a sacred sword that completely destroys evil dragons. The young man is about to strike the final blow when they hear something. Cordelia screams to Ryudo that she defeated all the orcs and now can help him. Amanda realizes this is her last chance, and she just needs to catch this girl. Amanda tries to catch the girl, but she gets hit by a magical attack. Suddenly Lilith shows up. Cordelia is surprised by her appearance, and Lilith turns around, saying she's very annoying. Amanda asks Lilith who she is and where she came from. The girl says who she is doesn't matter. Ryudo says it's because he's gonna destroy her now. Amanda yells at him to wait, because if he kills the evil dragon, something can happen to the balance of the world. However, the young man immediately cuts it in half. Cordelia asks if it was a murder of God and not a murder or sealing. Ryudo tells her that he destroyed her soul forever so she can't come back. Cordelia, grabbing her head, admits that her head is separating from all those details she doesn't understand. However, she happily receives her return and runs to him. Lilith to Cordelia, saying it's dangerous to be near him now, because he hasn't sealed the curse yet. Cordelia asks what she's talking about. Lilith explains that as he became stronger, he began to take on many taboos, and while he is immune to most diseases, the curse is a completely different issue. Cordelia asks again about what she is talking about, and Lilith responds with irritation that the power he has in his hands is also a curse that is slowly corroding him, and he can only use his power within his protective barrier. Lilith reports that this is the price she paid for using such power with her peasant body. Cordelia exclaims that's not what she asked. She wonders why he should stay so far away from her. Ryudo said he promised to save her, asking if it was true. He says he'll do anything to be there for her. Cordelia is very happy to hear that, and then she thanks him. Ryudo smiles at her. However, Cordelia and Lilith simultaneously ask who this woman is, pointing their fingers at each other.